On Monday, February 3rd, 2025. Start out with, we have some consent agenda items. Is there any of those that any one member of the board would like to pull out and deal with individually, or is it okay to proceed as a group? Hearing nothing, I will assume that that is the case. So we have the minutes of the January 13th, 2025 school board meeting and January 14th, 2025 school board special meeting. We have some professional staffing recommendations and some co-curricular staffing recommendations. If everyone is in agreement with the consent agenda, I would look for a motion to approve.
Oh, so moved?
Thank you, Tom. A second? Who's that?
I can second that.
Okay.
Fessler.
Fessler. All right. Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously, 5-0. There are also some professional staffing recommendations. No vote is necessary. Moving on to public comments. Angie, do we have any public comments?
We have not had anyone register public comments or register in person this evening, so I see.
Okay. Moving on.
Okay, this is the time to.
Yep. We've got a McFarland High School student report.
Just hold up, we do have a public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, it is.
I'm sorry,
Nothing. Just
okay.
Holocaust Memorial Day. So.
I have a short read to do here. In accordance with School Board Policy 167.3, the McFarland School Board welcomes public comment during regular meetings from individuals who are present at the meeting, participating virtually, or have sent an email to the board president or superintendent. Participants are required to register to speak upon arriving at that meeting, provide their name, address, and any group affiliation before speaking. Address only topics within the legitimate jurisdiction of the board. Recognize that the board will not respond to comments during the meeting and unless the item is on the published agenda. Limit their comments to under 5 minutes or 600 written words, and of course, maintain decorum. Thank you. All right, we have John Deals,
Yes, sir.
2350 County Road AB. Holocaust Memorial Education. The floor is yours, sir.
Come right up to the microphone so we can hear you.
And good evening, and it's
evening.
nice to see you all again. And as Bruce knows, my interest has always been in history, and it just, as this past Monday was International Holocaust Memorial Day, it's just occurred to me that I've got access to a lot of resources. My wife's family were both Holocaust survivors, and both were at Auschwitz-Birkenau and have a lot of memorabilia. But it's just one of those things that I am embarrassed to say I have no idea what the high school has access to. But it's one of those things that I just wanted to, just find out more about what the school already has in place, and also figure out what resources might be available through some of the organizations that we've been connected with over the decades, and just to explore that, because it's one of those issues that there's other memorial days for the Holocaust that'll be coming up later in the year, but I just was more curious to find out what currently exists and help to promote a study group or whatever that might be interested in exploring more. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Diaz?
I think if you leave your contact information with us, then we can have somebody get in touch with you.
Of course, yeah.
It's not on our board agenda tonight, so we
Of
can't
course, and
discuss
not
it, so it's
appropriate
wonderful.
necessarily. It's just one of those things that
Yeah, that would be
there's-
wonderful.
there's always like, you always mean to do X, Y, or Z,
Yes.
and it's just like,
Life happens.
that's right, so,
Yeah, so we'll have somebody get in touch with you
you bet.
and
That
connect
sounds
about
great.
it. That would be wonderful.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you. Thanks for being
Thank you.
here.
We appreciate it. Now, the McFarland High School Student Report.
Hi, I'm Kade. I don't think we've officially done one before together, but luckily we don't have any technical difficulties today. I'll just share my screen today.
Oh no. Oh, there we go.
All right. Sorry for the formality. So I'm doing it from my phone. All right, so so what's going on? 16 newly certified Microsoft Office associates. They have great credentials, PowerPoint, and congratulations to them. Just last week, we as Connect visited the McFarland Villa on January 31st. We went to hang out with the lovely folks there, and we sat and we ate fruit and just had great discussions about their lives and just brought some joy and company to a few people who just really needed it. We really hope to continue doing this, hopefully even branching out to other clubs, since they seem to really enjoy high schoolers and their company. We also want to recognize the MLK Youth Breakfast. We had a couple students go in for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. They were honored for the 41st annual MLK Youth Recognition Breakfast. So great, big congratulations to them as well. Coming up, so what will be going on at MHS? Right now, we're very focused on Advising Night, which will be happening February 5th from 4 to 7 p.m., where we have over 50 colleges joining us and employers as well. They will have presentations and financial aid and just helping our students look and plan into our future. Something we're really excited for. And we also have Community Week, which is coming up. We have all clubs, including Connect, joining in with some very kind ways to show our appreciation and our love. For, as you see, Connect, we have our Friendship Bracelet Wear Shop, our Twin Day Dress Up with a prize of $30 gift cards for each person who gets dressed up. We also have our Tom Farley visit, which will be happening around February 27th, where our special guest speaker will be coming to the Performing Arts Center, who is Tom Farley's brother. He will just come to talk about about a lot of topics that I think are very important for our students. We also have our athletic updates, which I will not bore you too much with, but we do have a big congratulations to our MHS dance team, who got first place in her jazz routine at the WACPC state competition at lacrosse. So we're very proud of that. And yeah, other than that, that is our McFarland update. Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much.
much.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions, comments? If not,
It's always amazing. Nope.
thank you
Thanks
very
so much.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks, okay?
Of course. Have a wonderful night.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, do we have Community Impact Grant, Natural Circle, update. Christine Deck. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. Nice to
Hi.
be here. I believe it might, it's looking like you and I.
Yes. Yes. Dr. Lewis is having difficulty getting into, so we will roll with us
Okay.
until if and when he's able to join us
All right,
virtually. So welcome here, everyone. As we do, we have an annual update for you on the progress of the grant, and so we're going to highlight a few things for you here today. Just to give you a little bit of an overview about the grant is this grant, this 5-year grant, really stemmed out of an equity issue identified by the district in that our African American or Black students reported they didn't feel that sense of belonging in our schools, and that was impacting both how they felt but also how they learned. And what we wanted to do with this grant, what the goal is to make some long-lasting and substantial changes that impact not just our African American students, but all of our students, both now and into the future. So we partnered, the district partnered in this grant. There's 3 of us, the Natural Circles of Support, and Dr. Lewis is the executive director there. And of course myself, and then Dr. Pribino, who is the a partner with the Wisconsin Center for Education Research. So we're each going to share a little bit about the grant and give you some progress about where we're at for this year. One thing I will share about our partnership that's really important for you to know is that it requires a lot of trust, ongoing communication that we've all been committed to. It's one of those things where we are equal partners in this work, and we continually learn and grow from that partnership. So it's something that's very strong, and we're already starting to get a little bit sad as we move down with our time with the grant, as we are just entering our final year. So the wonderful thing about this grant is it was developed before our strategic plan and our updated mission and vision, yet you can see how it aligns well with our mission of meeting the needs of every learner every day, and our vision of creating an equitable and inclusive community committed to student belonging, achievement, and growth. All of those factors are a key part of this grant, and you'll see that highlighted through the work that we're talking about. There are 5 goals associated with the grant, and we're going to talk about each one of them individually and report on progress, but you can see them here. First of all, leading mentoring circles for students. We also want to empower our staff through a leadership team, continue to look at our results and be curious and engage in inquiry throughout the process. We also want to provide professional development and community of practices for our staff so that that learning that they can take will grow in all of the settings, and of course engage with our families and community. So I'm going to highlight some of our key accomplishments here, some update and things and how things are changing here with this project. We continue to offer mentoring circles for students of color in grades 3 through 12. So you see it's about 34 students. It varies from building to building, and the times vary from building to building and location, but about 34 students are involved. The big thing that you're going to hear as a theme, intentionally, we are moving into a sustainability model. So much of the leadership for this work, including the mentoring circles, is transferring from natural circles of support to district staff, in this case, our diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging coordinator, Brittany Brazel. So we started a transition where they were co-leading this group last spring, and then starting this fall, Brittany's assumed primary leadership, and for the rest of the grant cycle, we'll be continuing to lead those. In addition, one of the big changes that we've made is, with students' permission, of course, as themes are developed in those circles, what's learned in there is being shared out with staff in their weekly staff newsletters. And that's been a really nice step because it helps the staff connect with what they're sharing and makes that practical and applicable to all of the settings. So that's been really exciting. The second thing that you'll see here is that we transitioned from, we had equity action teams in buildings, and now instead we're moving to that work being embedded in our building leadership teams. Those are often the decision makers, and this idea of equity not being a separate pillar or separate from our work, just being part of how we do our work. And when I talk about equity, I think it's important to remind ourselves that what we're talking about is the ability for us to meet the needs and the learning opportunities for all of our students, regardless of color, race, gender, ability, etc. The other thing is just to note that WIS has a really strong group that wanted to continue to meet, and so we'll see where that group goes, but they partner with the building leadership team as well for that work. In terms of engaging in district-wide inquiry, there's a couple of levels, and I think this is something that we're really excited about. We've been collecting data for those that are involved in circles throughout the project. But the district, as you know, has made a commitment to gathering data from our families, our staff, and our students on a broader scale. And actually, our student surveys have been going on the last couple of weeks. And then that also guides our work to see about the impact that we're making beyond just those students that are involved in the mentoring circles. Because our goal is to make these larger scale sustainable changes where all students feel that they can achieve in our district and feel that they belong and can grow. In terms of the seminars, a big shift here has been moving from sort of optional approaches. We still have some optional seminars, 3 of those for staff, and involving some new partners that Brittany's connected with. You heard about that last month a little bit. But in addition to those, we've expanded it into our ongoing professional development for all staff. What are the fundamental, foundational best practices for what we call Tier 1 or universal? Everybody gets it. All the students get it, this type of instruction. And what that really is just best practices. It's not a curriculum. It's not a content. It's how it's delivered. The service delivery model and things like well-being for all, which you've heard about in our school improvement conversations, as well as when Brittany was here last time to present. That's the work that we're doing in creating welcoming environments for all of our students. And then lastly, but certainly very important, is engaging families in the community. What has really evolved was this group that started, that I started, a while back, has now evolved to Brittany leading the group and added a new element to this McFarland Schools Equity Collective by having speakers come. And they talk about a variety of topics and present to those that come. And so I think last time was Student Services presented about what they do and how they meet student needs. Paul Ackley, as the athletic director, came and spoke to them about the role that athletics play in our student athletes. So it's a variety of topics really driven by the interest of those that are participating. And the other thing that's different about that group and our engagement with families, it's not a sit and get type of relationship. It's really back and forth. So they will provide suggestions. We will bring something to them to discuss. I'll give you an example. We had this group provide some direction about when you receive communication from the district, what do you prefer in a newsletter versus what you prefer getting in an email? And that really helps us try to better meet the needs to make sure that all the families get the information they need in a way that's most effective. So the next thing we're going to do is talk a little bit about evaluation, and this means I don't have to talk anymore. I get to listen to our resident expert researcher who's going to talk about these surveys.
The small E expert.
Yeah.
So I will share the evaluation overview. Unfortunately, it looks like Dr. Lewis isn't going to be able to join us tonight. So as, for those of you who've been here a while or listening to these presentations, you know that the district is the umbrella, and Natural Circles of Support is our community partner that has been running the circles, have been providing professional development. They also do data collection. So they'll either use surveys or surveying techniques, and depending on the age of the children, do it developmentally appropriate, or a focus group or something to get some feedback from the students. So I'm going to read the notes that Dr. Lewis shared. Excuse me while I do that. Last year, we began to explore the relationship between belonging and participation in one's education. From a data perspective, this year we're giving particular focus on school engagement and academic success. Meaningful participation in their education is an important indicator of belonging that contributes to school success, as outlined in the following slide. So just once again, as our partner, they play a critical role. Last year, as an evaluator, which is part of my role with this project, it really was a fall implementation year. We didn't do much of any new data collection. The district does all the surveying, so that's wonderful. This coming year, we're going to do heavy data collection. Not only do we always have to do an annual report, which we just put in on January 31st, but we would like to write up our findings, what happened, looking at the goals of the grant, how were those met, what were lessons learned, what were barriers, what were challenges, with the hope that if other people other districts want to do similar type of work, they might be able to use us as a guide. So just as an evaluation overview, first of all, we're always checking to make sure we're meeting the goals, and all of you, we are meeting the goals. The ongoing data collection for students and staff, that's once again ongoing. District staff, we were going to use, we had done a staff in January-ish, it was kind of spring-ish of 2023, that talked about or asked staff about their readiness and their ability to address different needs of students and where they fell. And then that's also where they gave a lot of feedback about what kind of professional development needs they had, which then Melissa and Brittany took and did. So we'll replicate some of those questions, but we'll tie it to the staff survey so that staff aren't being over-surveyed. I did district leader interviews in the summer of 2023. I think there was 12 of them at that time, so I'm going to redo those and see where administrators feel like we've moved or not. So that'll happen probably in the summer. I try to catch them when they're still on contract, but less busy in the school buildings. So we'll have student surveys, we'll have the staff surveys in the spring coming up here. We'll have the interviews of the administrators in the summer. And then we're also going to do, I'm going to do a focus group with this community group, the family group that's been meeting. I tend to attend those meetings anyway, but they're a core group that's been regular since many, many years ago. So we're going to get their feedback about what they see as any positive changes and things that there might still need, there's any places for growth, we'll say. So I'm really excited. It'll be heavy data collection this year for that. Just then the evaluation overview of what we reported back to our funding agency. Students are feeling affirmed and supported in the mentoring circle space, as was evidenced by the data collection from the Natural Circles circles of support staff. We continue to feel that they're able to express themselves, and they appreciate the facilitators' peers and being able to have deep conversations in circles. Once again, this is a role that Dr. Lewis and their staff and his staff, they play, and so that's a really critical part of that. The district level survey data, you've all seen this actually. We reported this out from your presentation that was given to you by Mr. Tarnitzer. So we use some of the items and indicators to show and to address some of the questions that WPP had for us. Let's see, and those were all those areas were for the staff, social cohesion, for the community and parents, how connected they feel to the district, and then social emotional health of the students. And there are some data points that are shared there. Anybody have questions on the data or the data collection or analysis? I know I just kind of shared a lot of information with you.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, well, then I'll turn it over to
Yeah.
you.
So what's next? You know, here we are in our final year, and as we heard, we're trying to bring together lessons learned, but we still have a lot of work to do with our kids and with our staff and families. So we're going to continue the mentoring circles and sharing what has been learned. That is really becoming our standard operating practice and something we plan to continue after the grant. So continue with district staff leading those circles and consulting as necessary with natural circles of support staff. We'll continue with the equity leadership in the sense of through our building leadership team, and that is aligned with our strategic plan. The Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Coordinator continues to meet with building administration at least monthly, frankly, more than that, but at a minimum of monthly. And what that has helped us do is just make sure all of our efforts are really connected and that we're not being redundant or missing things. Continue to develop that research, both with the students that are in mentoring circles, but more importantly with our other students, and the message of we want to have this work impact students' sense of belonging, but in an effort to impact student achievement. So continuing to analyze that work and preparing for the year-end report. We'll continue with our work in our professional development. What is a high-quality Tier 1 instructional practices, and continue with professional development seminars for those that would like a little bit more. The full staff are always welcome to those, and there's also teacher study groups. When you see TSG, a reminder that's a teacher study group regarding such conversations. And then lastly, we're going to continue to work both with the families of students that are in mentoring circles, you know, bringing them together, making sure that they feel connected. That's our next step for our work, and then continuing with our MSEC, the McFarland Schools Equity Collective, which actually meets this week on Wednesday night. And you can expect us, we're going to keep sharing things. We'll be back in June to give kind of a mid-year update, as we always do, and then a culminating report in December, or more likely January, I think, of 2026. And we hope that you continue to ask questions and be curious and support this important work that's clearly integrated into our strategic plan. So that's what we were hoping to share with all of you. Sorry that Dr. Lewis, he's trying to get in and just can't get in, but he's here in spirit, and certainly everything that we've shared, we've probably learned from him. So, so what questions do you have for us, or comments?
I have some.
Mr. Mooney, go for it.
Go ahead,
First of all, thanks for the report from both of you. Yeah, it sort of brings closure to the past 6 months. And I feel that's important, at least for me, to understand where we were and sort of where we're going next. But I do have some questions here. We talk about the Tier 1 instructional practices. What are we doing now if as the kids might be falling through the cracks or whatever, do we have tier 2 or tier 3 interventions?
We do, yes. We do have tier 2 and 3 in interventions. And often, what we have had those in place for a long time for our students. And what we're finding is that we need to kind of back up and make sure we're meeting as many students' needs as possible in the tier 1. So for a student to feel successful and a sense of belonging only as a result of an intervention is not where we want to start. Right? We want more students to feel connected and that they're successful in that tier 1. And so what we're doing is identifying with staff collaboration, what are those practices that are most effective in meeting the needs of the students that we have in this district and that align with research. And doing that through an equity lens to make sure that it is meeting the needs of all of our students, regardless of gender, socioeconomic status, disability, et cetera.
Okay, thanks. And again, I applaud your involvement, your facilitation, the administration, and teachers, of course, carrying that work forward. Is there any type of correlation, I don't know if there is, between the Dane County Youth Survey and the data you are gathering from students now?
So the Dane County Youth Assessment is administered to students in grades 7 through 12. So it is a much smaller segment. I would say the biggest difference, knowing both surveys very well and all of these data collection content well, the Dane County Youth Assessment is a fairly risk-associated survey. So they're looking at risk factors more than resiliency. It's just how it's because of the partnerships that are involved. So they're looking at things like, alcohol and drug use, sexual activity. Those are some of the things. They do talk about bullying and harassment, which is part of our survey results as well. What this does that the Dane County Youth Survey does not do is it talks about academic success and how well that students feel they understand what is going on in class, that they have people they could go to get support. So it's a much broader and I would say more academic focused than risk behavior focused.
And I understand that, but a big piece of the Dane County Youth Survey is, do students feel connected to an adult in their setting somewhere? And I know that's what's talked about here. Can they talk to somebody? So it's that type of correlation
Yeah.
I was looking at specifically.
And I think there is a question like that on the current student.
There is.
survey, correct? Right,
Yep.
But I think, thank you for bringing that up. If I remember correctly, when we wrote the proposal, we did cite some of the Dane County
Yep.
Youth Assessment, because I visually can kind of remember it. So it might be useful to look back at that to see if there's trends. Both surveys are anonymous, so we can't bring
Correlate, yeah.
Right.
students together to know how they responded on one survey or the other, but it's certainly worth a look, so thanks for bringing that up.
And those results have come out recently.
Yeah.
Then you talked about the McFarland Schools Equity Collective project and having speakers come in. You cited athletics with Paul, student services. Have there been other speakers come in?
Trying to think
that group?
who they've all had.
Yeah, they had, I did miss a couple, sorry. I know Lauren Narenko was one of them. Last month, they had a panel of the social workers, psychologists, and counselors, and then they explained the difference between the three roles, which was really helpful. I also missed Mr. Ackley's, unfortunately. I'm trying to think, and then Wednesday night is an open discussion about what other questions they have about student services. So the way Brittany has been designing them is to keep one or two open. So there's, more open discussion, and she might bring something to the table, or something in the audience will bring it. So do you have a thought on?
Well, I was just thinking like ELL students, the advanced learner student, nutrition. I was just thinking of some different
Yeah, those are great
areas
ideas.
that a group of people might be interested in hearing more about.
Absolutely, yeah.
Those are great ideas.
But I do like the model that Brittany's using, where you
Yeah.
have a couple open,
Yeah.
and there's just a question or something, and you talk about that.
No, I'll bring them, you can
Yeah.
bring them to her too, but
That's so
yeah,
wonderful.
those are great ideas, so.
And then my last question is, we've been very fortunate to have this grant in our district the past 4 years, extremely fortunate, because we're in a different place now than we were when we started the grant.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah. My question is, once the grant concludes, and I know the responsibilities for the district to carry on, but will there be any future grant opportunities to even further enhance what our district will be doing?
There certainly could be. You know, I mean, but I don't think we know right now. I think that's part of what our year, you know, will entail, is looking at what we will be sustaining from this grant, and then how we might build upon it. I think for us, we wanted to make sure sustainability has been our word throughout the whole thing, because we have all seen grants that are amazing and they go away and the work stops.
Yep.
And so we've been very intentional in building capacity that will last beyond the life of the grant. So we feel very confident that we've built that foundation, that with the goals that we currently have, it will be able to meet those. But I think that's a great idea about what's next, you know, beyond how could we build upon that. And I don't think we're quite to that point,
Yeah.
but I think.
Well, we have
it's
another year
wonderful.
yet, yeah. Because I think
Great
part,
idea.
part of the success has been the resources that have been made available to the district.
Mhm.
And some of those resources we won't be able to tap into in the future. So just, you know, like you said, yeah, what is our future?
Yeah, it was very, when the proposal was written, there was a sustainability component. We're right on track with that. We knew that someone was going to take over circles. Even when the proposal was written, Brittany was not
Right.
an idea at that point.
Mhm.
So really having her do it, and building her capacity to continue to do it. She can still remain engaged with other circles,
Mhm.
staff and teachers who are doing in other districts. I believe they have a community of practice that she connect to. But yeah, we knew all along that this is going to happen, and most will, everything that you've talked about will stay. The other thing is, 5 years is a really nice length of a grant. You work on shorter, you just don't really get anything done. But what's really, and this will be part of the report that we write, is the movement away from kind of a small group of people around the students, particular faculty and staff around the students, and PD for them to a broader PD, as well as, Mr. Jarnes was talking about the level 1 intervention. We know from research in all sorts of places that when you intentionally improve climate for people, even if it's a particular group, it helps everybody. So you improve climate for women in STEM fields, it actually helps men as well. So everything that you do to bring people up brings everyone up. So I think this work is important to think about that this isn't an add-on, and it's not just affecting great staff to work with. So really feel honored to be a part of this project for this many years.
Yes.
I was just gonna say you already touched on it, Tom, but it's very clear that it's, so much of the practices are embedded. Like, I can feel it as a school board member, I can feel it as a parent, of 2 high schoolers, and that's the sustainable part, and that feels really good. And I'm really looking forward to the final report, because I'm so curious to hear what people who are in more of the day-to-day have to say about it, and what the numbers show, and all of that, so.
I really like that we've opened up to the community. I think that's going to continue, and I love that word sustainable, because that's, in education often you get this thing, it goes in a binder, and that's the end of it. And we just keep working on this. And then also the point is that it's for all kids. I mean, I think we have to realize, you said it very well, Dr. Rubinow, just the idea that kind of that boat rises for all the students, so that's wonderful.
Yep.
What can the board anticipate to hear from administration a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? Will we keep getting like 6-month follow-ups or status reports?
Yes, so we will in terms of, well, first of all, it's all connected with our school improvement work, right, and our strategic plan. So you'll
Strategic
hear it
plan.
through that lens.
Yeah.
But also you will hear it through Brittany's annual report and that she provides to the board and just did in December. And so now that she's taking over that leadership for this work, that's where you will primarily hear it through.
Can we get this presentation emailed to us?
Sure.
That would be great.
Are some of the, kind of to that point, for Brittany's annual updates, will the surveys that we send continue to have some updates or focus questions, like the ones that we're adding in now for the grant? Would it make sense to continue to have some of those stay, just
Mm-hmm.
perpetuity?
Yeah, I hope so. So when I did that survey, Brittany wasn't hired at the time.
Mhm.
So we're gonna sit down together and go through the items and say which ones are we gonna do again? Which ones do we not need to do because they're covered already in the staff survey, and what would you wanna know?
Mhm.
So it'll really, she'll take more ownership of it than it being
Okay.
like my survey.
Sure.
But we needed to do baseline and
Mhm.
now we'll do it.
Yep.
So, yes, I think, I can't speak for her, but I'm assuming if she gets good data from that,
Yeah.
that it could be incorporated. I can't speak for her, but
Okay.
that makes sense.
I know you don't have a crystal ball, but
Yeah.
is there any way you can anticipate the impact of the very anti-DEIB stance that the new administration has taken and that some leadership in our state legislature also? Do you anticipate any real tangible type impact from that?
Want me to take that?
You could take it for the K-12 level, that would be great.
Yes. I did, just to, I think that right now, the important thing is to recognize the way that our K-12 public education environment is set up. It's set up with a model of local control, and that has really been the design since inception. And so there's limitations on what the federal government is able to do. So in terms of tangible changes structurally, curriculum at this point in our government is not dictated by the federal government. That's done at a local level. However, I think the greater unknown is about attitudes, belief, support. And you've seen that get changed when you talk about local control. The other thing you will see is school boards, school officials change that maybe have a different approach than others. But I don't think it's a kind of a light switch sort of scenario, and it will become sort of incumbent upon all of you to just affirm where you are with it. The other thing I think is just that the idea of so much misinformation, and so we have that responsibility to provide accurate information. Because when we're talking about these situations, and you can hear us talk about this, we're talking about meeting the needs of all of our students, including our students of color. And so I think that is the rhetoric that is much less divisive, and truly, when you talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, those are things that I think everyone, understands and supports. When you talk about DEI as some phrase, just like we're dealing with CRT, what is critical race theory? I didn't know. And so those are the things that I think we have to continue to educate the public.
Yeah, they ran a good story in national news today about the difference between affirmative action, which is law, versus DEI. And I think they're absolutely right. A lot of people don't want to understand the difference. That was a good clarification for people that were listening to that story.
Yeah, I think education is going to be key because the words are being used and what they're suggesting isn't really true. I've been I guess, in the field of DEI for 20-some years, studying all sorts of different populations and their success and inclusion into various fields. And we know from research that diversity, when you define it, not in the way that's being defined, helps productivity, it helps companies with the, the return on the ROI, they do better. And as I was mentioning earlier, the environment and the climate in which we do that work, when you do the work, it helps everybody. So I think education's really key. Like, we really need to be really clear about what the words mean and how it's being used. Nationally, I'm on a couple of projects where faculty are across the country and really feeling more of the heat from the state. So they're in places where they just can't do it. So I think we will see something, but I appreciated Mr. Tarnitzer's, local control still stands for K-12. But I think for us who are doing the work and others, I think part of our role will be really educating on what it is. Because the way it's being described right now is not, I'm generalizing, of course, but it's not accurate. And it's actually very, very good for companies. It's very good for places that we've studied. So I think education will be key. But you all are a pretty educated board, so on this topic. But I think you're going to do a little more. And I think in the community you might see that as well. I'll put on my MEP hat, and we met with Brittany and Crystal the other night over dinner to talk about just generally in the village what are some needs and things like that. And we all agree just education about like what's accurate about the words that are being used. And that's, it's no fault of anyone. I don't expect to know a lot about being a chef or, right? You just don't know what you don't know. So I think that just some education might be helpful.
Yeah.
I just think it's important in education, kids have to feel like they connect with someone, and teachers and students, they have to have that connection, and they have to feel comfortable. And to me, it goes way beyond color, gender. It's just something that, it's why people run into education in the first place, and that's not going to change as long as the human, I guess, psyche is the way it always has been. So I just think it's really important we just recognize we're trying to make kids feel comfortable in their school, and I think that is the most important message we get out to the public.
So that they can learn better.
That's it. It's it. It's the only way you're going to do it.
Well, thank you, Dr. Rubino.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Yes,
very
thank you
much.
both.
See you
Welcome
in a
back.
while. See you next time.
Yes.
All right, next we have State Education Convention update. Aaron, why don't you start, and I'll pick up where you leave off.
All right, so Craig, Jeff Mahoney, Angie, and I had the opportunity to attend the State Education Convention in Milwaukee. As always, lovely weather in Milwaukee in
beautiful.
January. Have apparently my thoughts on rescheduling that conference have not been heeded. So we were there after closing school on Tuesday because it was too cold.
But it
But
only been
Was,
1 week
was that
later.
heated or heated?
yes, heated.
Sorry.
Both, yes. But had a really productive conference. I think each of us approaches it with a different lens. I'll give my take, is that the conference is really well designed for board members. And so as a superintendent who thankfully is not involved in trying to learn about and pass a referendum, I had some other options to go and see, whereas previously that's all I went to, were referendum sessions. So a few takeaways I had, things about using student survey results to guide instruction, some just culture things and sort of staff culture ideas that came through some of the keynotes. That's often what they provide. Learned about the new superintendent evaluation model, which was helpful. Attended a session about safety from That was presented by the partners that were involved in the tragic situation, shooting in Mount Horeb, and provided sort of a debrief of things that they experienced. Some school law updates. That is something that you can never get too much of because the law is always evolving. And I think overall, just had a chance to kind of step away and reflect and kind of where we are compared to where some of our neighbors are. So productive time.
It always is. One of the takeaways I get every single year at both the state and national level is that this district is very different in the way that we do our business, in the way that we interact with board, administration, staff, union. Everything starts from an amicable place. Always willing in compromise, and I every year, without fail, I find out that is not the norm.
It's not?
It is
I'm
not
shocked.
the norm.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, that's
So,
amazing.
Wednesday afternoon is the delegate elections. There were 13 or 14 different amendments. Every amendment ended up passing eventually. Probably the most popular term in Robert's Rules of Order in this delegation assembly is called the question, because they sit there for hours going back and forth, literally. Last year they did. This year it was much shorter. So I'm a decent note taker, but I'm a bit of a messy note taker. So I'll try to put some of this
Artistic?
together.
It's
Yeah,
artistic.
Yeah.
Whatever gets the job done.
But it did get out soon enough for me to attend a session, one additional session then on Wednesday afternoon. So I took one in on standards-based learning and grading the how. And what I found is that the two most important things when it comes to making this kind of a change is consistency and having one story across the board as to how you're going to do this. But then they came right back and said that everybody has about the same growing pains
Yeah.
initially when you try to switch from
Yeah.
the old style to the standards-based grading.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of sticking with it.
Yeah.
It's not going away anytime soon, anyway. So that was a takeaway from that.
Our friend Kate would be,
Uh,
call out to Kate. She
Exactly.
might feel sad.
And Thursday, one just caught my eye, and it said calling all board presidents that I went to, and
That should catch your eye.
I found out that the relationship here is a bit different than at other places. It seems that most boards and administration don't really have any kind of delineation between who is responsible for what and whose purview is day-to-day operations as opposed to finances, as opposed to policy. But there were board presidents in there that said they would be in contact with their superintendent 12 to 20 times a week.
Nope.
How do you feel?
What do you
How
mean?
feel about
I mean,
that?
you don't want to talk to each
Honestly,
other that much?
That's amazing.
Oh, it was incredible how in the weeds
Yeah.
some of these board presidents took the boards. And I don't know how superintendents
But
work with
is
them.
it just due to like, almost like a sense of entitlement, like they're trying to create busy work?
I don't know if it's legacy, this is how it's always been.
I tend to think it's agendas that they're running.
I was surprised.
Yeah,
I
that's
was-
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's probably so many things, but I think also that board education about clear roles and responsibilities. I mean, we have our mentoring program, we have historically, I think our board has been like that a little bit.
Yeah,
A
there-
long time ago, but, Yeah, I mean, we definitely don't operate that way here.
I would argue it hasn't been that way here. There's been some periods where it's been that way,
Hey,
That's
but
what I
they're
mean, yeah.
really pretty rare.
And things are so politicized now
Yeah,
that it's, you can call it nonpartisan, but it just isn't. So,
yeah.
you know, that kind of rears its ugly head at times too. There's factions within boards that are, when board members resign or retire, they go out and handpick who they want to be on the board that closest fits their agenda.
Yeah,
And I don't know how that's sustainable.
no,
I don't know.
well, that's not a
But-
positive way.
But I think when it comes to roles and responsibilities for a board member, that's clearly identified in state statute.
I think so.
They aren't reading the state statute apparently, because it's difference between night and day.
It is.
So,
And
someone has fallen down
it was so
on
prevalent
their
though,
learning.
that I wasn't real interested in standing up and telling them how we do it here.
It also sounds like there's not a lot of trust within their boards and the
Yeah, that's a good
administration, like,
That may be, that may be a
That
part of it
happens,
too.
yeah.
And those are all things that transparency and communications help beat back.
I
Some
think
of the
that's
other
the-
stuff,
did you want to say something else?
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, and that's the public perception too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that school boards have
then I
their
went to
hands in a lot
two,
more
oh, I'm sorry.
stuff. No, that's okay.
Two of the most crowded I have got to think sessions in the entire convention was cybersecurity preparedness and AI in the school district. The AI in the school district was just busting at the seams. But one of the important takeaways I got from that is we've been using AI for a long time.
Yeah.
We just haven't been really aware of it. Now, I think we're in a period where we're gonna have to decide how to use it for good as opposed to used for evil. But it's, everybody's concerned about it, and everybody is resigned to the fact that it's here, and it's only gonna become more prevalent, and the key is to be educated and to figure out how to use it.
I think we've been pretty proactive with both of those things,
I think so
as
too.
evidenced by board policy that we've either refined or created.
Yep.
And we spoke a little bit about our situation here previous to the start of the last school year with the cybersecurity and the ransomware and malware. There was another district that had a ransomware situation where it cost them $3.1 million to get their servers back.
Do they have another referendum coming? I'm just kidding.
I don't know.
No, you're not
I
kidding.
never uttered the
Yeah.
word referendum once in the whole time I was there.
Typically, insurance is
Oh,
part of that,
But it's, you know, as always, it's a special feeling to be with whatever it is, 3,000 or 4,000 like-minded folks, you know, that are interested in public education. And you walk away, you know, kind of being invigorated a little bit. Always good.
I think what you both shared also piqued my interest in a couple of things. First of all, Aaron, you talked about, you went to a session where they talked about some new state laws. Are there any ones that we might be interested in knowing about at all? That might
I don't-
impact us?
I don't think so. I mean, they're a bit in the weeds, to be honest. Things like prospective candidates will be going through the Elections Commission instead of through the board clerk.
Okay.
That's applicable, but less so in terms of a game changer. A lot of it was talking about, they did talk about like what the executive orders, what they can actually do and not do. They talked about those kind of things. So, you know, that, I kind of touched on that a little bit earlier. Just looking at my notes here. social media posts, they talk about, and just about board members being cautious about when they're speaking on behalf of the district and not. But I don't think there was anything really earth-shattering, I think, that's relevant. So every other week, the Dane County superintendents get together virtually and have a meeting, and we have legal updates every other week. I mean, that's how often these things are changing, like immigration law, those kind of things. Those are all real hot topics. There's usually something going on, that gets people talking.
I heard my first unsubstantiated rumor over the weekend about the immigration folks.
Yes, you
Here
do
in
have to be
McFarland.
careful about those
Oh, yeah.
unsubstantiated rumors.
And Craig, you talked about the delegate amendments.
Mm-hmm.
And you said they all passed. What was the most controversial one that got passed?
Well, let me look and see here. Controversial and which one took the longest aren't the same thing.
How about the one that got passed by
Funding
the
for
least
school
votes?
meal, debt, where schools or
Yeah.
parental groups or someone else will go ahead and take care of the debt,
Oh, yeah.
the student lunch debt. And there are, cybersecurity was another one, big difference between rural districts and urban districts in terms of how they
For sure.
address these kind of things. That it'll be, it's kind of like the way we have it here at times. One person will be doing IT and HR and, business. So that's difficult. Accountability and school report card standards. There was a lot of discussion over that. There are the faction out there that don't believe that the true tangible result of education comes with standardized tests. They didn't offer up any alternatives. The rationale is that you need a standard of some sort to base their achievement on. So that went back and forth. Educational objectives, there was talk about ridding public education of critical race theory, enough so that it jumped out a little bit. I think everything else was staff mental health
Oh.
was another big one that people might be forgetting about the staff when it comes to worrying about the mental health. That's kind of ravaged us the last couple of years here since the end of COVID. But controversial disagreements, but usually that's based on urban versus, rural.
Interesting.
And that was the question I've been asking in my mind.
Well, you've got rural districts that's 80% of their budget is travel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
transportation.
80% of our budget is staff and benefits.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
So those are two very different dynamics.
yeah. And has it changed? I mean, because in some ways I felt like, since I've been on the board, and certainly in the last 10 years, I feel like the rural and the urban are almost fighting against each other. And I see the attack on public school more and more in light of it's going to destroy public education in the rural areas, because they don't have the alternative.
That's,
They don't
Yeah.
have
And
enough
they-
people to provide.
and they've got no mental health facilities.
Right, right.
You maybe have to travel 50, 60 miles
Yeah.
just to get to a clinic,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is so understaffed and so overbooked.
But there's
that-
still that tension between the two
Yes,
groups, and that's the
without
thing
a
that just
doubt.
drives me crazy. It's like,
Without a doubt.
we have a common enemy or a common cause we should be fighting for, and yet we get caught up in the little nitpicking disagreements.
The
And-
one tidal
and-
wave was Act 10. People are so hopeful that will be at least figured out, which parts are constitutional and which are unconstitutional and such, but There was a lot of talk about that. And there was also, fear of the unknown in the next foreseeable future.
Thanks so
think-
much for going.
Yeah, thank you guys for going. It's a lot of
It's,
time
it's
and
a
dedication.
labor of love.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. The one thing that I wanted to bring up was in the delegate, proposals, when we have the opportunity to review them beforehand. I think, like, with our goal to have more legislative advocacy, I wonder if we can carve out a little bit more time next year to talk more about those as a board. To make sure that we're just a little bit more aware of which ones they are. When I reviewed them, they have their own weeding out process when school districts, submit them. But there were some, it was almost more interesting to read the ones that were not. Were not accepted into the delegate, so.
But actually, they do talk about those.
Do they?
It's not, they're not necessarily voted on, but they do have discussion on the ones
Interesting.
that individual school districts have sent into them that just didn't get on the,
Interesting.
yeah.
Because I think, there were a fair number that would not align with our mission and some of the items that we've committed to. So I just think it's something we should keep our eye on.
I like your
Agreed.
suggestion. Yeah. One other area that piqued my interest was, you talked about standard-based learning,
Grading?
grading, excuse me. Aaron, you don't have to answer this, but this is my question. Where do you
Never
think
give him
we
that.
are at as a district, specifically the high school,
Middle school.
in standard-based grading? Basic, proficient, exceeding expectations, or other?
I would say we are basic to proficient, approaching standard. I think what both the middle school and the high school are doing is they're in a period of sort of relaunch. Kind of like, okay, what have we learned? What's working and what's not working? And because when you first start, there's so much to learn and you have to try things. And that's the only way you're gonna learn, because there is an art to it with every content area and a changing curriculum. And so what the middle school started last year and the high school is more so doing this year is that relaunch, so that we can get, to that point of feeling proficient. But I think the biggest challenge that we have is just consistency across teachers,
Yeah.
but more so across content areas, and then across buildings. So we've been working on all of those things, kind of, it's like we're working on the plane while it's, being flown, or the train's already down the track, and we're, kind of.
We were
tuning it
actually
up.
a tad late to the game.
Sure.
And I just asked the question, because I know we've talked about it a
Yeah.
lot. And as a board member, it's important for me to know where we are in that whole spectrum. So thanks for sharing.
We're in a better place than we were last year, and a better place than we were the year before. So that's good. We're moving
I
in
certainly
the right
concur with you.
direction.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Agree.
Okay, moving on. We will look at land sale to the village of McFarland. Mr. Mahoney, the floor is yours.
Hey,
Take
how
it
is
away.
everybody?
Hi.
I was like, that's such an amazing background, but.
Hey, that is not my dad's house, but I'm at my dad's house in Monona. So, as Aaron knows, I'm doing a little bit of we're getting ready to get my dad's house on the market in a couple months. So, anyways, hey, we have something that is very important, which is we are on the next meeting, we're going to approve a land sale to the village because the village has organized a great option with the developer over in that area to move some sales of property and get rid of a road that will never happen because we have a baseball field in the way. And we are basically selling green space to remain green space. And my fun fact today was I was chatting with Aaron a little bit is I have my little memo from February 28th, 2007 from Don Peterson. And you guys are going to love this. You should see the graphic back then. Let's see. Okay. It's got a highlighted area of the proposed well number 5 site so that people in McFarland can keep getting water. That's important. And so I don't want to tell you this is really kind of an easy thing to kind of move on, but the village board and their planning commission held their meetings. They've held their public comment time frames, and I got to say that none of this kind of blew up on social media. So I'm going to say that all of this is very logical and makes sense. And we've been talking about this since 2007. So are there any questions about something that seems fairly logical? Yep.
Some of it might be newer to Megan. I don't know if we've.
No, I've been following everything,
Yeah.
so
So it's.
no questions here.
Yeah.
Is there any reason not to do it?
I would like to have water keep going to people that need water, and this is a good opportunity for us to help the village, and the village has helped us in many ways over in this area as well.
Then we should do that.
And Jeff, what would the cost benefit be for the school district?
So about $46,000, and since the Lacey property was purchased with Fund 41 money back in 1998, the money would go back to the fund balance of Fund 41, which is our capital projects, and we would use it for fun things like the fact that we had a couple boilers that were really kind of struggling this year at the high school. So we've already spent that money. So this is a welcome addition to that fund balance.
Anybody else have any questions?
No.
No.
Thanks
I
for
think
the-
it,
Mr. Mahoney?
I would say the other thing to think about in terms of a cost benefit analysis is that it makes two residential properties, which we can't require them to have children that attend the school district, but it's certainly a possibility that they could be,
Given
family
the
homes.
location of the house, it's hopefully they're baseball fans.
Right,
'Cause
right.
that's a beautiful
Yeah.
facility.
I mean, 6 children is $68,000. It'd be great. That's a teacher. I count every day.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff.
Sounds like a win-win.
So will this be an
Right, so
action
you'll have
item?
an action item on the next board meeting.
Okay, good.
Thanks.
All right,
Thanks, Jeff.
keep up the great work. January WEVA board meeting update, Mr. Mooney.
Okay, I can give you the update we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago. We had a financial review of the budget. It's interesting, their revenue increased by 5%, and their expenses only increased by 4%.
Oh, nice.
So that's a real plus. In their area of communication, their enrollment is now over 5,000 with a very
Oh, is
low
it?
withdrawal rate. And 90% of the students who apply to WEVA actually enroll in WEVA.
Oh,
So that's a good thing. Marketing, We've had a marketing firm hired for the past year. That contract will not be renewed at this point. What has surfaced since, we've had the marketing firm, a new logo, new ads, revised enrollment forms, and a new open enrollment email series for them. And you may be seeing some new ads on television networks, like we have in the past.
They did the
Tournaments.
girls' basketball
Yes, they
tournament
did.
last year,
Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
I thought they were great.
Other, there's 217 students classified as homeless with WEVA. There's 1,000 students plus who are EEN with IEPs,
How many homeless, Tom?
217. There's 255 staff with WEVA. They do have a very active family council that meets, I think, monthly, virtually, and they'll be involved with the Capitol Day on February 19th, where they meet with the legislators up there. And they're going to be talking about two different focus areas, off-site testing with proctors and increase in funding for special education services for students. Let's see. Students are thriving, those that have special ed needs. However, the students with special ed needs are outpacing the existing resources. So they're going to be taking, looking and discussing at the existing mission and vision of WEVA. I'll just keep you updated on that, where that goes. Any questions on this past month?
How big an increase in enrollment is that plus 5,000 this year? Is that from 4,500?
Yeah, I would say maybe 4,400.
4,400 is what I remember
Yeah.
from last year.
Do they have, currently have staff that is capable of taking on that additional?
Yes, WEVA has maintained levels of staff to accommodate additional students.
Okay. Boy, that seemed like they've got things figured out over there.
But you
Doing
may
pretty well.
recall, the trajectory, if it holds for the next very few short years, they anticipate a potential enrollment of 7,000 students.
Wow.
It remains the largest virtual school in the state.
We are currently, right?
Yeah. And from my observation and my involvement with them, I would say it's a sound virtual option for kids.
Boy, I can't imagine how a homeless family or student could possibly wind their way through, you know, a virtual education like that.
Again, if a family is displaced out of their home, if they join another family in their home or an apartment, they're still considered homeless because they don't have a place of their own. Aaron, do you want to add?
Yes, I think that was exactly, so thank you for
Okay.
saying that. That's the biggest thing, is that if they, are forced due to economic need to live with another family, while they may have a roof over their heads, they are considered homeless per the McKinney-Vento Act.
And it's important that they all have access to computers and the Wi-Fi.
Right,
Right.
And
That's it.
WEVA definitely provides that.
they do.
They do.
I mean, I don't know about the
Yeah.
Wi-Fi, but.
Yep.
you know,
Boy,
do.
that's,
They do.
that's all about perspective.
Provide hotspots.
I mean, if you're willing to walk that road to get educated, you've got a passion to get educated. That's for sure. Okay, anything else for Tom? Then we'll look at legislative update.
I think we have the board retreat.
Yep.
So the WEVA board retreat.
Oh.
So first there was the
Oh, I'm
WEVA
sorry, I'm sorry.
meeting,
I saw
and
the
now
meeting.
this
Yeah.
is the retreat.
Yeah, okay. We have a board retreat.
You wanna Go
So,
first?
Sure. So December 18th, Tom and I, and among others, traveled to Green Bay for their annual retreat, and it was always a really engaging thing. One of the things that we really get from it is it's at their DTA Connect facility, and tours were provided by students. We spent actually a good chunk of time that day with students. talking about what their participation in Destinations Career Academy, specifically the Connect program, is meant to them. Also with the business partners that are part of that. Just a reminder, it's sort of an on-site, partly in-person, partly virtual program where they connect with business partners.
Oh, nice.
And it was a really powerful day. Some of the things Tom just shared are very similar to the conversations we had about enrollment. There's some things that, in my notes that stuck out to me. One was, so Insight. The Insight School is a really kind of a last resort for a lot of kids. Many have children of their own that are participating in the program, and they had their first early graduation. So that was something they were really proud about, and it just struck me. They, as Tom mentioned, are very concerned about special education reimbursement. They have a disproportionate amount of their student population that are students with disabilities. And so the lack of reimbursement from our state is really impacting them financially. They talked about their enrollment and their projections. One of the things they're really working on is decreasing the length of time it takes to onboard a new student. So currently, it's about 6 weeks total process.
Holy cow.
So, and a lot of that is honestly just some logistics, and there's some things that they are hoping the Department of Public Instruction could do to expedite that process a little bit on their end. So that's a concern that they have. Talked about, the enrollment increasing, retention increasing as a part of it. It's not just new kids. So as you know, and that's our one action item, I think, today. Retaining students is an important thing, and their satisfaction rates are very
That's
high.
improved significantly.
Yes, yeah. People are feeling really positive. DCA continues to grow. I would say at the State Education Conference, their booth was hopping. So a lot of attention there. The budget, they're currently in a bit of a budget deficit. That was something they kind of knew going into the marketing campaign, was kind of like, put that ahead and then know
What
that
is that?
Amber Alert,
Oh, no.
Beaver Dam. Okay, phone, I got you.
We all got it.
And so that was something they kind of knew, which is something that they're looking at, ways to address that need, and somewhat through legislation. We actually talked a lot about legislative priorities. And so they had their, what is their title? Legislative liaison people, that they're lobbyists, I guess, would be the best word.
What do
Come and present.
these schools, what do they fall under? Are they a public school? Are
Public
they
charter.
treated
They're
the
a
same
public
as a
charter
public
school.
school?
They're a public charter, yeah.
Okay.
And so that's part of what they're asking for, is to be reimbursed at the same rate as private schools. They talked about the testing, which Tom mentioned. They talked about wanting their kids to be able to participate in extracurriculars as something legislatively they're lobbying for.
In their home district then, yeah.
The remote test proctoring is huge. It's huge.
Yep.
I think those were the main ones that I had.
Yeah. And then DCA Connect, 100% of their students who respond to an invitation and visit actually enroll. So that's a huge.
Is that up in
enrollment.
Coloma?
That's a big conversion.
Green
Is that-
Bay,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Because there's that big, heavy equipment facility
Well,
where,
but they use, there is a partnership between
Yep.
that business and
Yeah.
Connect.
yeah.
In fact, another board member, is it Rob?
Rob Call?
Yeah,
Oh,
he's directly involved with some of that.
okay.
In fact, he was, I don't know what program it's on once a week, something about something Wisconsin. But he focused on DCA Connect during one of the programs.
That's a former Monona
Yes.
mayor, correct?
Mayor and state assemblyman, I
State
think.
Assemblyman.
But the students in DCA Connect, part of it is providing them opportunities to give back to the community. And there's mentorships, there's apprenticeships. The student develop their own opportunities to do the outreach. They're required to be in the building itself on Mondays and Wednesdays. And sometimes they'll go on Wednesdays. But the other 2 days are completely virtual. And they have to do that because it's a virtual program. Let's see, it's interesting, because right now there's 71 students enrolled as of last year. 43 were females, 29 were males. And that day, students shared their stories, why they left their public school district to join Connect. And you can never judge a book by its cover, you know? Some of them just wanted a small learning environment. Others felt unsafe where they're coming from, and DCA Connect is a very safe place. There's a lot of ownership. It's project-based, so they shared many of their projects with us, projects that they might be able to do in their former school, but I think some of them would have been censored out of public school also. 50% of the students are of color. Transportation, they have to provide their own transportation at this point, but that's probably the biggest barrier, unless they live right in the Green Bay area. So, and that's, anything else?
I don't think so.
It is a day well spent
Yeah.
up there. Did you go to the evening session, Aaron?
I did.
Was that with the legislators? Because I
It
I
was-
didn't stay that late.
It was actually, legislators were there, but it was more so with the business partners.
Okay,
So people that weren't able to be there during the day were able to join and interacting with the students. But they had a moment where the business partners were able to share about the difference that it made for them, and students and their parents were there. Some of the
Okay.
parents were there too, talking about the difference that they've seen it make. I think the neat thing about DCA Connect is that kids are really able to find a passion and run with it in a way that you just couldn't do in a traditional setting. So one of the things, a big takeaway I had with this is that understanding that we're not talking about kids whose needs are being met in the structure of a brick and mortar public education environment and are being sort of stolen away from, public schools. These are kids who probably wouldn't be in school
Right.
if it wasn't for that, or would certainly not be happy or successful. I mean, kids that were really at the brink, were at their breaking point. And not necessarily because of any fault of the brick and mortar school, it's just not a good fit for them at that point in their life. And so that helps me because, we have declining enrollment, and we'd love to see as many kids as possible. Now, this doesn't affect us, but most districts have declining enrollment. And so sometimes I feel like to my superintendent colleagues, they're like, oh, your virtual school keeps taking our kids. But it's really,
I don't see
honestly, most people are very happy that their kids are being successful.
all the
Yeah.
graduations
Yeah.
I've attended, that's, especially 10 years or so ago, these were not students that would fare well at all in a brick and mortar school.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of different now. I think it's a different kind of, if the demographic is the right word. Kids that didn't look at that option in the past, I think today are taking a closer look at it because of the freedom that it has.
I also think there's like less of a stigma associated with it
Yeah.
now.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, there
I
is.
think so, especially with COVID.
Yep.
But
It is,
another,
for sure.
another big strength is that students can go at their own pace.
Yeah.
It's usually not a slower pace. It's an accelerated pace.
Yeah.
Pace. Because they found their niche, like Aaron said, and it's a strong interest, and it's, again, project-based, and they just go with it.
And if you can make it at WEVA, your parents are all in with you. You know, there's not too many students that are gonna make it through that without the parental support that WEVA tells them from the get-go is gonna be necessary to be successful.
It is natural, though, you would have that feeling. And it's just, in the end, it's really the way we fund our public education. It's just so, I don't know, it's so ridiculous.
Okay,
Good segue.
Yeah.
thank you. Legislative update. Mr. Tarnitzer.
Yeah, so a few things we wanted to highlight here, and I think a bunch of us have things to share. Want to talk about the Dane County, Greater Dane County School Governance Consortium meeting, which was held in Mount Horeb on January 15th. Talk about, Bruce attended a session with the Wisconsin Public Education Network about decoupling. I can talk a little bit about the listening session a week ago tonight with Representative Stubbs and Senator Royce. I think those were the three main things. Want to talk about, want to start with the last first. So last, while we were actually at the State Education Convention, I was invited to attend a listening session about school safety held at the Monona Public Library last Monday, and it was designed as a listening session. And I was actually on a panel along with a few other people. Dr. Frederick, the superintendent at Monona Grove, was also there, as well as Monona's
Police chief.
chief of police, fire chief, I think.
Yeah,
Was
I think
this-
it was Madison Fire Chief, though.
Madison Fire Chief, and the interim Madison Police Chief was also there.
Yes.
And really, it was a listening session, though. We spoke briefly at the beginning and the end, but it really was about listening to constituents talk about their concerns about school safety.
Anything surprise you?
Well, yes. I was surprised by all of the people that were there. It was packed. Most of them were Madison residents and talking about their experience in Madison schools. I was actually quite reassured by some of the things that people were saying and felt like, oh, yep, we're addressing that. Oh, they said things like, you know, when you're talking about school safety, you need to increase your student services staff and decrease those school counselor to student ratios. Oh, yep, good, we're there.
Easier said than done.
Yeah, well, that's what we've done.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
we've
we
done.
have.
And talking about, you know, just some safety protocols, some confusion about some things, talking about bullying and harassment.
Was there,
There was a good chunk of time about parents stepping up too.
There was.
Like at home or like?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
was there any pro and anti SRO discussion? I know that there are.
No, actually, it was more like increased security.
Right.
Because
That's
didn't I hear
Some
something at
schools
the,
have ended their,
yeah,
Yeah, it didn't seem like there was anyone who was really
No.
anti. In fact, there was people thanking the police officers, what they've done, so.
well, I know.
What was
we
the,
owe ours.
what was Brett's uncle? What was the thing? And
Jeff
we were part of
Jacobson.
that.
He was just saying that it was really about, in terms of kids who are involved in active shooting, is that those are the kids that don't feel connected. And so whether it's an athletics or some other co-curricular or something, every kid, you know, needs to have something that makes them feel connected. And that was part of it. He's also part of We Are Many, that
Yeah,
United
that
Against
does.
Hate that we're part of, and we'll be hosting an event coming up,
Yeah.
like we did last year. So that was part of it. There was a fair amount about bullying and harassment. That was part of it. Engaging the faith community was a big
That was very big.
part of it that people were talking about. Just, you know, we need to come together on this. And then at the end, I got on my soapbox and just said, you have all these great ideas and important things that schools should do. We need to fund our schools. So it's a very short version of what I said. I got a little worked up. Yeah. I was feeling it, so it was powerful.
That's what those are for,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
exactly.
powerful.
okay? All right.
Yeah, how about the, Bruce, why don't you share about the session you attended?
Yeah, I attended the decoupling of, you know, the vouchers.
Explain that to me, will you?
Yeah.
Well, right now, basically, the 700 and something million dollars that we're spending is part of, in the end, the education. It's all part of that education thing. And they want to make it more kind of just general funding, so it'll be hidden. And that's already happened. They had a person, it was you know, it was over the internet, and they had an educator from Texas, and they had, excuse me, let's see, it was Florida. I've got my notes, I just put them away. And I'm trying to remember the other state. And they were just saying that it's just almost kind of insidious. It's just a way to kind of hide, you know, how much money they're actually spending on these, you know, voucher programs. And,
Well, and who the students are.
right. And that's where I just, you know, I talked with Aaron about it. To me, that's when I started realizing it's gonna be the rural areas that are just, because they were talking about it, particularly in Florida, a lot of these rural districts, they can't make it anymore. And so they're just folding. And
Well, they talk about that in the far northern.
Yeah.
To northwestern part of the
And
state
and I
here.
don't understand how they support this group of legislators who are in favor of doing this. And by decoupling, it becomes that much more kind of like a mystery, what is being spent on this, and it keeps on growing. There was an article in the New Yorker I read about what they did in Ohio. And Ohio is now at the point, I mean, they started really small, kind of the way Wisconsin did, but it's to the point where in Wisconsin, you could be a millionaire, billionaire, and you still can receive those funds to send your kids. And it just
Right.
go like, it's mind-boggling. And the little public school system is just
A
going,
high enough percentage of
It's-
voucher and charter school students have transferred there from other private schools,
yeah. Yeah,
whose tuition is
yeah,
sometimes astronomical.
yeah. So we just have to be vigilant. I think that was the message more than anything. And I'm trying to figure out, how do you reach out to our public schools in these rural areas and warn them about, I mean, when we had our community group come together, you organized this, Aaron, we started talking about how important our school district is to this community, and the economic viability, the demographic viability of the northern. If those schools, you know, in some of those counties and those rural areas fail, what's gonna happen? They have nothing. And I'm just, my mind is kind of blown by all this. I hear the WEVA, and maybe that's one answer, but I don't think that's for everybody. You can homeschool your kids.
You know, as much as I hate to say something like this because it sounds so negative, it might take the example of one or two districts failing to kind of shine a giant light
Yeah.
on those areas that are supporting legislation
Right.
that is taking away
Right.
public school funding.
And it's the funding. It is just the funding. It's
I
just-
think it was 3 weeks or so ago, probably, I read that the Boston School District was in a awful position, that if they didn't pass their last referendum, they were gonna dissolve the district.
Well,
If they don't pass their next
Next
referendum.
Yeah.
referendum. Yeah.
And we just, was it today? We just got, was it 88 more schools this year are going, most of them are, again, predominantly rural areas.
Are going
They're
in April?
going referendum, yeah.
Well, and what's so
There's like
interesting is the
18
point you brought up is that when you look at what percentage of budgets is going to what, like for our district, 80% of our budget is going to compensation and benefits, right?
Sure, right.
Rural areas, the majority of their budget is going to transportation.
Right.
So it might not be completely visible as to what public education funding is really doing to that district because their bullseye isn't in the same place ours is.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. That's right.
One other thing, Aaron and I and Jeff meet with Matt and Carolyn once a month, and we spoke a little bit about the delivery of that letter to the legislature that has actually been delivered, but I kind of brought it up wondering if we were getting into the time where we might start talking about it's a good time to take it. And it appears as though the village stance is that that's now our bailiwick.
I will say, I think that's an excellent way to go.
Do you agree?
That it falls on us, I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Okay.
Um,
Aaron?
Yeah, that makes sense, and I think it's a good segue into the Greater Dane County School Governance Consortium. See?
That's a good one, and that's a mouthful.
Because
It
that,
is.
so we met in Mount Horeb on January 15th. Megan was there, and Craig was there, and Angie was there, and I was there. And there was a panel of people representing the different organizations, superintendents, business officers, WEAC. And they all talked about school funding and their priorities and what they think they can do. And then really identified the two priorities that group is advocating for as a collective of districts across Dane County is increasing special education funding and indexing the per pupil ratio to inflation. So those were like the two things.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
If we could get those two things and advocate collectively towards those two things. So we signed something, indicating our support for that, and I think the next step is about how do we tell the story? And that was it was a bit of a strategy, like how do we convey this? And to be honest, overwhelmingly, it was school districts have a very limited role in terms of the actual messengers, because
Yes.
they're just seen as, yes, we know you're gonna advocate for that as a school district. It doesn't mean you don't, but you need the story of your local community.
Like, school districts needs lobbyists.
Yeah, and we need the voice of our constituents to tell the story about how it's impacting them.
Right.
So we have the group for Dane County. Are there other groups like this throughout Wisconsin that are advocating from a board-centric perspective?
Not that I'm aware of. You have the School Administrators Alliance, which lobbies on behalf of the Wisconsin Association of School Boards, the Association of Wisconsin School Administrators, the Wisconsin School Business Officials, and also the Wisconsin Association of School District Administrators.
That's a lot of
So-
groups.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
and-
so basically, all the different
Yeah.
education groups all use the SAA for their lobbying efforts.
Okay.
Mhm.
What about like PTOs, PTAs
They're not
You-
currently organized in any.
throughout the
place.
state? Because I would think that legislators would listen to them more than they would listen to us.
Right,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
I just have such an interesting
yeah, it'd
look
be
on
nice if they
state
listened to everybody,
politics.
but, yes. But I think it's gonna take, getting back to where Bruce was talking about, in our county, we can easily be dismissed, I think, is my political lens, and it is the death of the rural town because of the death of the rural public school
Yep.
is what unfortunately
Well,
makes
it's imminent
that resonates.
if things don't change.
Well, they said in the article yesterday in the Sunday paper that, the state for the first time ever is gonna have a declining, population. And the one area that's growing is Dane County. That's gonna continue to grow. It really is frustrating. When I saw this on our agenda, again, it's just an opportunity for us to thank our community for passing that referendum. Because, we don't have a large amount left over. I mean, we're trying to just juggle everything to make ends meet, but we're not in the position that some of these other districts are. And thank God our community backed us when we
Exactly.
needed it, so it's wonderful.
Well, going back to your conversation about the letter, as of right now, there are no joint finance committee meetings on the calendar. As of right now. At least for the next couple of months.
That's okay. I mean, I don't think there's a real sense of urgency about it. It's just that we wanna, if we're going to do it, we should do it at a optimal time when it may have an impact.
Well, WASB has the day at the
Mealtime.
Capitol in March. It's March 12th. And so I'll be there. Are you gonna go?
Is
or
that the
it
day
just
of the
me?
Capitol?
Okay. It's March 12th is the day of the
Yeah.
Capitol.
Wasn't planning on it.
Hmm?
I wasn't planning on it.
I'll be there. And so during that day, board members are gonna be able to talk with various legislators. Granted, our legislators are already on our side. That being said, sales is kind of my jam.
Yeah.
So I might see if I can talk to other state legislators.
Good.
That'd be great.
Plus, I got a little in at the Capitol, so
Yeah, that's great too.
see if we can pull some
That helps.
strings.
You do it, Megan.
It certainly does. Thank you as a legislative liaison.
Not that I can make a
Yes.
lot of change, but, I
It's all
do
on you.
enjoy fiery conversations.
I didn't know that.
Some are more comfortable than others in that scenario.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. We have a district administrator's report. Mr. Tarnitzer,
All
please.
right, some good stuff going on. I know many of you were able to attend Bye Bye Birdie. That was really high quality. I've seen a lot of amazing middle school musicals in my day, and that ranks in the top. I mean, it was really, really high quality. Kids were so engaged. It was just well done, and I appreciate the adaptations they made
Right.
to the musical to engage our students and make it relatable.
It was a youth version.
It was,
A
it
little
was.
cleaner
Yep,
than the musical or the adult version.
yeah.
But they related to that in an educational sense. It was wonderful. They,
It was
you know,
really
they
great.
used that, trying to understand what it was like in the 50s and,
Had to be an incredible amount of work.
yeah.
Yeah,
There had to be
Oh, yeah.
75 kids, I would think. And my grandson was in it, and they've been going pretty heavy since October-ish.
yes.
But there's a lot of memorization and a lot of places to be. It was excellent, just excellent.
Yep, so that was a show that Elise Weber was in when she was in middle school. So now she was
Aw.
able to
Really?
be in her director role, so.
What a great job.
So very exciting, that went just amazingly well. One of the things that I think is important for the board to note is the number of staff that attended the performances. I know on Friday night, there were about 40 staff. Or
Thursday night,
night, I'm sorry, Thursday night.
we were
about
completely
40
surrounded
staff.
by all teaching staff.
Mhm.
Cool.
And they raffle off something at intermission for staff.
Yeah.
I did not receive it, but that's okay. Obviously, you heard about our dance team, right? State champs. I think they undersold that a little bit. State champs.
There you go.
So
That's a
let's do
huge
that.
deal.
Yeah, that is not an easy undertaking
I've been
either.
singing their praises all year. They are really, really
They are
good.
really
You should be
That's
dancing their
amazing.
praises. Sorry.
Yeah, that would be more appropriate.
Thanks to our school leaders and administrators for great PD on the 24th. So there were a lot of content collaboration meetings going on. Curriculum councils happened that day. There were safety tabletops, literacy professional development, well-being for all, behavior expectations and norming, all kinds of great literacy stuff. It was just really a powerful day. Thank you to all of them. Want to recognize Angie Bazan and the library media specialist. Angie was able to secure a grant from the AFT Wisconsin for $3,000 to get books in the hands of our kids. And so that was distributed equally to all of the buildings. And CEPS is going to use it for their book room and for their book vending machine. WIS is going to send books home for summer reading. The middle school, they were able to purchase more books for school-wide reads, and the high school is getting more books for the book room. And they were also able to purchase some backpacks and personal hygiene items for the student services pantry here at the high school, so great stuff. Also been doing superintendent listening sessions. Those are done, was in all 4 buildings, learned a lot of great things. Really wanted to hear about budget issues. How are you feeling the impact of the budget cuts that we made last year? And, what are your priorities? And so that was very helpful. The Citizens Facilities Naming Committee has had 2 meetings. to tell you where we're at with that, that would require at least an hour. Good work, great work, in touch. Right now, the group is doing our work, and then we also have kind of 3 people that are just outside of the district that are just really invested in researching and providing us with information. So really, really fortunate to have the expertise of those 3 people that love to study history.
Cool.
So we'll be, continuing our work. There's an important presentation at the Monona Public Library this Thursday about racial covenants that we will
They're
be
going to,
attending.
I think, a dozen or so libraries around town and giving this
Right, it's moving.
presentation during the Black History Month.
Yep, we also have, wanted to give a shout out to our high school. They've really been working on attendance this year, and behavior expectations. That was something they worked on last year, but attendance is the big difference. So when they compare first semester this year to first semester last year, there's been a 58 decrease in the number of tardies. A 58% decrease.
That's
amazing.
huge.
That's phenomenal.
That's dramatic.
What do they owe that to?
It's their Spartan reset and their focus on consistency and, teachers, kind of taking attendance and reminding students, and there being, frankly, consequences, clear
Yeah.
expectations for kids that are enforced.
I mean, it's kind of, from my personal experience, it is accountability.
That's an issue.
It's the follow through.
Must be working.
Appreciate them for their leadership.
Most people.
Bunch
For
of
some.
I have a bunch of donations I just want to recognize. We had some really generous people. Larry Frisch for donating to Bonnie's Summer Book Club, really generous donation from Larry. Debbie Hodge for a generous donation of a car. To the, to the auto department.
Nice.
Oh, is it
Nice.
Cooper's old car?
I don't know. I don't know.
He worked his butt off and bought a brand new truck and, yeah.
Debbie brought us a car.
Thanks, Debbie.
Nicholas Sales, a donation to, for the payment of negative lunch balances.
Oh.
That's so nice.
So,
That's so nice.
so just really generous. Those things, often go on quietly, and that's one of the things that, I've committed to making sure
You
we're
don't
not
hear
quiet
about that
about those
enough.
things.
A lot of great things.
True.
We have some things to recognize in our photos for you. So, look at those guest readers. You may
Aw.
recognize some of those, the mystery readers. Yep, those very well-behaved classes.
Oh,
So you see Melissa
Unbelievable.
Full and Tom and Craig, so thank you for doing that. It's always a lot of fun.
That's a blast.
It is a blast.
If you're not smiling when you come out of there, you've got a real issue.
Sometime I want to watch you on 2 years. That would be fun.
I'd like to throw a little embellishment in there now and then.
You heard about the Martin Luther King Youth Recognition Breakfast. So these are our students, our middle school students that were recognized. So just a wonderful event in a packed Edgewood on the Sunday, the 19th, I guess that was probably this year. So a wonderful celebration and very proud students and their families, well deserved. You can see here with the high school students as well. Of course, we talked about Bye Bye Birdie. You can see a little bit of the rehearsals there. Such a hoot, such a great time. There's lots of pictures on social media if you haven't seen them, and videos and things. We continue with our Student Employee Excellent Award. Recognized Kendall Riemann, and they surprised them at lunch, so it was a real fun event with a really big check.
Yeah.
So, it's my goal in life is to earn a really big check.
Right?
So very deserving there. So a couple pictures from our 18 to 21-year-old program. This is them at Great Grace Coffee on a little bit of an outing there. So kind of getting out into the community, and here you can see them got to tour the police station.
Oh, nice.
Uh-oh.
Nice.
There's
So-
Officers Eve.
I gave them a tour. See that fancy new place there? Well you know, well-deserved. Out, and I'm sure Officer Zietzma was a great tour guide. Recognizing, you heard about this a little bit with the Career Alliance Saw Blade Certificate with our tech ed department. There's so many certificates that happen, like this is just one, but that is something that is really special, 49 in this case, about our district. And our Student of the Month from the Optimist Club continues to recognize that. Do we have one, is it tomorrow?
No, it's a week from tomorrow.
Okay, because I wondered, I didn't
Yeah,
get
they
to
moved
know.
it back a week.
Okay, all right, so this was Julia Ackley, obviously, who well-deserved in her amazing accomplishments. And, oh, well, there is more. Oh, yes, so the conference that we talked about, one of the things, you can see our very own Melissa Full there on the left, presented with some other education leaders about retaining educators through peer mentoring and our amazing mentoring program, which does not exist everywhere. So,
What?
Was this the group that was at the convention?
yeah, this is at the convention, yeah.
Yeah.
That was what they did. So, awesome, thank you to Melissa for presenting there. Oop, and then I can realize I'm slouching. So then, of course, February is Black History Month, Kindness Month, Career and Technical Education Month, so a lot of great recognitions. Here, it's also School Counseling Week. So you see the post day that Angie put together, wonderful event, time to really recognize our outstanding school counselors who do as much for the staff as for the students and families. I don't know how they do it. We are very, very blessed. Also want to recognize that it's Black Lives Matter at School Week, and there's different dress-up days and things for the high schoolers. We have I think the orchestra concert was tonight.
It's tonight, yeah.
Yep.
I
The
thought
high
there was
school
more cars
orchestra
out.
Yeah.
Yep, it's not for our board meeting, no offense. The middle
One day.
school on Wednesday has World Read Aloud Day, so I'll be going there to do some reading. It's also advising night here at the high school that evening. The McFarland Schools Equity Consortium is also that night. Then some field trips, at second grade is doing UW Geology Museum field trips coming up. On the 7th, the high school Rotary Ethics Symposium. So I don't know much about that, but I'm curious to learn more about that. The Student of the Month Assembly also coming up on Friday at the middle school. Next week is Community Week here at the high school, so they have some activities around that. Next Tuesday, we have a closed session to set my goals for next year, so be ready, board, for that. The 12th is Abraham Lincoln's birthday, as well as Jackie Tarnitzer, my mother's birthday.
Aw.
Yes, I will be at the Citizens Facility Naming Committee meeting that evening. She has forgiven me for missing that.
Thank you, Jackie.
Yes, and Friday, we don't have school because of Valentine's Day? No.
Aw.
It's because it's a
Boy.
conference release day as well. So that's where our teachers for staying late during the evenings end up getting compensated with that day. And then we're back here on the 17th. So that concludes my reports. Anything from the board to share?
I do have some, but before I get into that, Aaron, you talked about the grant the MFT grant,
AFT,
AFT,
but
for
yes.
$3,000. Do you know if any of our teachers take advantage of the Madison Reading Project when they give away 50 books at a time?
They have in the past, I don't know about recently, I haven't
Okay.
heard much about it, to be
Because,
honest. There used to be an email that would go out,
yeah.
I don't recall seeing
Yeah,
that.
because my daughter got her books, I think, back in November.
Yeah.
But whoever goes gets 50 books.
Mm-hmm.
And they use them for their classroom libraries or for their book room or whatever. But I would encourage all staff to, next time, to take a look at that and go if they can, because they have
Yes. They have them
thousands
up
of
there.
Where's it
books.
held?
It's in Madison. I
Yeah.
can't
It
tell
is
you.
somewhere in
Yeah,
I
it
can't
is.
remember, but it's well promoted. I mean, it's well promoted, and we've done it before.
Yeah, and they're all
I
new
still remember
books.
hearing about it, but my
Yeah.
memory's not the greatest either.
I'd also like to recognize the mentor committee again. Even though they had their month, I think we should acknowledge them throughout the year for the work that they do and how effective they are in helping us retain
That became
the
apparent at
teachers.
the convention as well.
Good.
Our mentor program is, it takes second to no one.
Also, Mary Huber Drake, who was the lead person in organizing the mystery readers at the SEPs, along with Marcy Gray and Brenda Rotuno, because that takes a little coordination and time on their part to secure readers and do the schedule and all that, so thanks for them doing that. The 100 students from IMMS, again, who performed Bye Bye Birdie, and a special shout out to Elise Weber. She's a gift to the McFarland School District with the talents and the skills that she brings to us. And lastly, Scott Genrich. He was the winner of the raffle at Bye Bye Birdie on Friday night.
He did.
Yes.
Nice.
So,
Nice. Katie Miller won on Thursday.
do you have to be present to win, do you know, Aaron? You
Because
do?
they draw out of the people that are there that night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else? I would echo the Bye Bye Birdie comments over and over and over again. I mean, it's just so phenomenal and so, you just leave with this sense of joy. And I mean, it's such a happy thing. You could see it on the kids' faces, you could see it on the people in the audience. It's just it's the things that make you want to run for the school board.
But that's a really good
It's the
example.
happy times.
Yeah.
But that's a really good example of investing in kids.
Right.
You know, it's a great asset building for them. And where they're all mic'd up, that makes all the difference in the world. You can hear them.
Oh, it's
Doesn't
phenomenal.
matter how old you are.
No, it doesn't. Anything else? If not, we'll move on to our last item here. We have action on recommended WEVA Destinations Career Academy and Insight School of Wisconsin, Wisconsin Statute 118.408G, student transfers to resident districts. At this time, WEVA Destinations Career Academy and Insight School of Wisconsin are requesting approval of recommended student transfers back to their resident districts due to lack of engagement. Do I have a motion?
I'll move,
F,
do that.
do I have a second?
I can second. Oop.
C. Discussion?
I'll just summarize my concern again. We have three, and I won't even call them students because they're children.
Yeah.
We have three children in third grade that are on this list. We have 4 adolescents in seventh grade on this list. We have 5 adolescents in eighth grade. My view, the guardians, parents have let these kids down. I feel as a board member, we're letting the kids down because we haven't found that perfect match for them. You know, there has to be something more that we collectively can do throughout the nation, instead of just sending these kids back to their home district, because we know it's not happening once we do that. But that's just my
I
opinion.
wonder if these kids have been introduced to the Insight School before they're sent back to, their resident districts with the Insight School supposedly is kind of the last chance. They're the last option that these kids have. I wonder if they've gone through that as well.
You mean gone through Insight, or it's been suggested that
Been
they go?
suggested.
Yes. I mean, the staff at WEVA does an outstanding job trying to do whatever they can to keep these kids engaged. The reason why they become disengaged is because they aren't showing up primarily for classes. The expectations are going to be the same at Insight also.
And Insight is just high school.
Yeah.
That's only high school. Any
So-
other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0, and I would look for a motion to adjourn.
I will make that motion.
MC,
I gotta keep up with.
I'll second.
Bruce, Second?
Me, you got a reputation.
All
I
those in
do.
favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0, and we are adjourned at 9:06. Thank you very much, one and all. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Dale.
No, we were
Thanks for coming in.